What if everything we think we know about the past is missing a crucial piece of the puzzle? Picture this, a 2,000-year-old device, small enough to fit in your hand, capable of predicting the movements of the stars with jaw-dropping accuracy. Or a material so durable that it repairs itself, just like living tissue. These aren't fragments of science fiction, they're real, tangible artifacts left behind by ancient civilizations, and they're forcing us to rethink history as we know it. Today, we're stepping into a world where the line between ancient and cutting edge blurs, where the ingenuity of our ancestors rivals and sometimes surpasses our modern marvels. This isn't just a story about forgotten tools or dusty relics. It's a revelation about human potential, a testament to the fact that brilliance isn't confined to any single era. From the moment archaeologists unearthed the Antikythera Mechanism, a complex, clockwork-like device from ancient Greece that mapped the cosmos, the question has haunted researchers: how? How could a civilization without electricity, without precision machining, create something so sophisticated? And that's just the beginning. Across the globe, from the towering pyramids of Egypt to the hidden workshops of Mesopotamia, evidence keeps emerging of technologies that seem impossible for their time. Self-healing concrete used by the Romans, intricate surgical tools from ancient India, even early forms of batteries buried in the sands of Baghdad, each one a whisper from the past, challenging our assumptions about progress. These inventions aren't just curiosities, they're clues pointing to a level of knowledge we're only beginning to grasp. So why does this matter to us today? Because every time we uncover one of these ancient marvels, it's like finding a missing page from humanity's collective story. These weren't just random strokes of luck, they were the products of observation, experimentation, and sheer ingenuity. They remind us that innovation isn't linear, that genius can flourish in any age, and that some secrets are still waiting to be rediscovered. Over the course of this journey, we'll uncover 33 of these extraordinary inventions, each one a puzzle piece in a much larger picture. Some will make you question what's possible, others might even inspire the next leap forward. So let's dive in, because the past has far more to teach us than we ever imagined. Let's start with the Antikythera Mechanism, a device so advanced it feels like it was plucked from the wrong era. Discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in 1901, this bronze wonder dates back to around 100 BCE, yet its complexity rivals that of an 18th century clock. At first glance, it might look like a corroded lump of metal, but modern imaging techniques have peeled back the layers to reveal something extraordinary. Dozens of interlocking gears, precisely arranged to track the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. This wasn't just a calendar or a simple tool, it was a cosmic calculator capable of predicting eclipses and mapping the irregular orbits of celestial bodies with pinpoint accuracy. What's truly baffling is how ancient craftsmen achieved this without the precision tools we take for granted today. The gears were hand-cut, each tooth meticulously shaped to mesh perfectly with the next, a feat that would challenge even modern engineers. Some researchers believe the mechanism might have been based on earlier Babylonian astronomical records, while others argue it hints at lost Greek knowledge, a forgotten school of engineering that vanished with time. Either way, it shatters the stereotype of ancient technology as primitive or rudimentary. But here's the real kicker. Nothing close to this complexity appears again in the historical record for over 1,000 years. The Antikythera Mechanism stands alone, a glittering outlier in a sea of simpler devices. Why wasn't this technology replicated or improved upon? Did the knowledge behind it disappear in some long-forgotten library fire, or was it simply too advanced for its time? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear: this device forces us to rethink what ancient civilizations were truly capable of. It's not just an artifact, it's a challenge, a silent dare from the past urging us to question the boundaries of human ingenuity. Now let's turn our attention to a discovery so unexpected it sparks debates to this day: the Baghdad Battery. Found in the 1930s near what was once ancient Mesopotamia, this unassuming collection of artifacts, a clay jar, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod, might just rewrite the history of electricity. When archaeologists first pieced them together, they realized something astonishing. Fill the jar with an acidic liquid like vinegar or wine, and the setup generates a small but measurable electric current. Dating back over 2,000 years, this simple device raises a tantalizing question: did ancient civilizations stumble upon the principles of electricity long before we ever credited them? The implications are staggering. If these jars were indeed primitive batteries, what were they used for? One compelling theory suggests they might have been employed in electroplating, coating objects with thin layers of gold or silver using an electric charge. Artifacts from the same period show intricate gilding that modern experiments prove could be replicated with just a few of these batteries linked together. Imagine ancient craftsmen using electricity to adorn jewelry or religious artifacts, their techniques lost to time until now. Skeptics argue that without written records explicitly describing electrical experiments, we can't be certain of their purpose. But here's the counterpoint: absence of documentation doesn't equal absence of knowledge. Many ancient innovations were passed down through hands-on practice rather than texts. And let's not forget, the Baghdad Battery isn't an isolated oddity. Similar artifacts have been found across the region, hinting at a broader, if rudimentary, understanding of electrochemical reactions. What makes this invention so captivating isn't just its functionality, it's the sheer audacity of the idea. Electricity, a force we associate with the modern era, might have been quietly harnessed in workshops millennia ago. It forces us to confront a humbling truth. Our ancestors weren't just building monuments or crafting tools, they were experimenting, tinkering, pushing boundaries in ways we're only beginning to uncover. The Baghdad Battery doesn't just sit in a museum case, it hums with possibility, a silent challenge to our assumptions about the timeline of human innovation. Now we come to one of history's most legendary materials, Damascus Steel. Picture a sword so sharp it could split a hair lengthwise, so strong it could cleave through armor without losing its edge. These weren't the fantasies of medieval poets, they were the real weapons carried by warriors and knights, forged by master blacksmiths in the Middle East between the 3rd and 17th centuries. What made these blades extraordinary wasn't just their craftsmanship, it was the metal itself, a material so advanced that modern scientists are still unraveling its secrets. The mystery begins with the steel's unmistakable appearance: swirling patterns like flowing water or rippling silk etched into the blade's surface, but these weren't just decorative. They were the visible signature of a nanostructure unlike anything found in modern alloys. Under a microscope, Damascus Steel reveals a matrix of carbon nanotubes and nanowires, microscopic structures that gave the metal its legendary flexibility and strength. Think of it like a microscopic chainmail, absorbing and distributing force in ways ordinary steel simply couldn't match. So how did ancient blacksmiths achieve this without electron microscopes or precision furnaces? The answer lies in the raw materials and a lost art of forging. The steel was made from Wootz ingots, a type of high-carbon steel imported from India and Sri Lanka. These ingots contained trace impurities, vanadium, chromium, and other elements that, when heated and hammered in a very specific way, created those nanostructures naturally. The exact process remains a puzzle. Some believe the blades were quenched in special cooling agents, perhaps even plant-based solutions that altered the metal's crystalline structure. Others argue the secret lay in the repeated folding and forging, a technique that distributed carbon in perfect, intricate patterns. What's even more fascinating is that no two Damascus blades were exactly alike. Each one bore the unique fingerprint of its maker, a testament to the artistry and intuition of these ancient metallurgists. Yet by the 18th century, the knowledge vanished. Changes in trade routes, the disappearance of the original Wootz ingots, or perhaps the rise of firearms made these swords obsolete. Whatever the reason, the technique was lost. Today, scientists and bladesmiths are in a race to reverse engineer Damascus steel. Some have come close, using advanced microscopy and metallurgical analysis, but no replica has fully matched the originals. It's a humbling reminder that the past still holds secrets we can't easily replicate, even with all our technology. These blades weren't just weapons, they were masterpieces of materials science, proof that ancient artisans understood their craft on a level that still leaves us in awe. Every time a modern sword bends or chips under stress, it whispers the same question: what did those blacksmiths know that we're still struggling to relearn? Among the countless ancient mysteries that baffle modern scholars, few are as enigmatic as the Voynich Manuscript. This cryptic tome, roughly the size of a modern paperback, contains 240 pages of handwritten text in a language that has defied translation for centuries. Carbon dating places its creation somewhere around the early 15th century, likely between 1404 and 1438. But here's what makes it truly extraordinary. Every page is filled with an alphabet unlike any known script, accompanied by surreal illustrations of plants that don't seem to exist, celestial diagrams with no clear astronomical basis, and naked women bathing in what appears to be a network of interconnected green pools. It's as if someone plucked a book from another dimension and dropped it into our history. The first confirmed owner of the manuscript was a 17th century alchemist named Georg Bersch, who was so perplexed by it that he sent copies to scholars begging for help. Later, it fell into the hands of Wilfrid Voinish, a rare book dealer who brought it to public attention in 1912. Since then, everyone from World War II codebreakers to modern AI researchers has tried and failed to crack its secrets. Some theories suggest it's an elaborate hoax, but the text follows linguistic patterns found in real languages, with word repetitions and sentence structures that imply actual meaning. Others propose it's a lost language, a cipher, or even an attempt to document knowledge too dangerous or radical for its time. Then there are the illustrations, pages upon pages of unidentifiable flora, each drawn with meticulous detail, yet bearing no resemblance to any known species. Were these symbolic, fictional, or perhaps medicinal plants whose identities have been lost to history? The celestial charts are equally puzzling, with zodiac symbols circling unfamiliar constellations. And the so-called biological section, with its intricate drawings of tiny nude figures in strange vessels, has sparked wild speculation about everything from alchemical processes to early depictions of microscopic life. What's most fascinating isn't just the manuscript's resistance to decoding, it's the sheer dedication behind its creation. Someone spent months, possibly years, crafting this by hand. Every stroke of the pen, every bizarre illustration was intentional. That level of effort suggests it wasn't a prank or a madman's scribbles. There was a purpose, a message meant to be understood. Yet here we are, 600 years later, still staring at those cryptic pages like a riddle without an answer. Perhaps the truth lies hidden in some overlooked detail, waiting for the right pair of eyes to see it. Or maybe the Voynich Manuscript was never meant to be solved, a timeless puzzle designed to remind us that even in our age of information, the past still holds mysteries that defy explanation. One thing's certain, until someone cracks its code, this book will keep whispering its secrets just out of reach, a tantalizing glimpse into a world of knowledge we've yet to rediscover. High above the arid plains of southern Peru, a mystery stretches across the desert floor, vast, intricate designs carved into the earth so large they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. These are the Nazca lines, a sprawling network of geoglyphs created between 500 BCE and 500 CE by a civilization that left no written records to explain their purpose. From simple geometric shapes to elaborate depictions of animals, a hummingbird with wings outstretched, a spider with legs perfectly proportioned, even a humanoid figure nicknamed the astronaut, these designs defy easy explanation. Some stretch over 600 feet long, their lines so straight and curves so precise that they rival modern engineering projects. And here's the puzzle. How did the Nazca people achieve such accuracy without the ability to see their work from above? One theory points to an ingenious use of simple tools and mathematics. Archaeologists have found wooden stakes near some of the lines, suggesting the Nazca might have used ropes anchored to these stakes to trace out massive shapes methodically. By scaling up smaller designs using grids or ratios, they could have maintained proportions even at enormous sizes. Think of it like a prehistoric version of a projector breaking down complex images into manageable sections, then transferring them to the desert floor one piece at a time. This wouldn't require aerial vision, just patience, planning, and a deep understanding of geometry. But not all the lines are so easily explained. Some align with celestial events, like the winter solstice sunrise or the rising of certain stars, hinting at an astronomical purpose. Others follow underground water sources, leading to speculation that they were part of rituals to summon rain in this parched landscape. Then there are the more controversial ideas. Could the Nazca have built rudimentary hot air balloons or kites to survey their work? Fragments of what might be balloon materials have been found, though the evidence is far from conclusive. And of course, there's the enduring myth of extraterrestrial involvement, fueled by the line's otherworldly scale and the absence of any clear, mundane explanation. What's often overlooked is the sheer audacity of the Nazca's vision. These weren't just doodles in the sand, they were monumental acts of collective effort, requiring coordination across generations. The desert's stable climate preserved them, but their creation would have demanded meticulous planning and a shared cultural purpose. Were they messages to the gods? A giant celestial calendar, or perhaps a way to unite a community through a shared or inspiring project? Modern technology has only deepened the mystery. Drone surveys and satellite imaging continue to uncover new lines, some hidden for centuries under layers of dust. Each discovery adds another layer to the puzzle, reminding us that the Nazca lines aren't just relics of the past. They're a conversation, an invitation to wonder. They challenge our assumptions about ancient capabilities, proving once again that human ingenuity doesn't always leave a blueprint behind. Sometimes it leaves a mark so vast it can only be seen from the heavens. Even after thousands of years standing sentinel in the Egyptian desert, the Great Pyramid of Giza refuses to surrender all its secrets. Recent advances in scanning technology have peeled back layers of stone to reveal something astonishing: hidden chambers and unexplored voids deep within its ancient structure. These aren't just small gaps or construction quirks. Some of these spaces are large enough to walk through, their purpose utterly unknown. It's as if the pyramid, long thought to be fully mapped and understood, has been silently guarding rooms full of untold stories. The discovery began with muon tomography, a cutting-edge technique that uses cosmic rays to create X-ray-like images of dense structures. When researchers aimed these scanners at the pyramid's core, they detected a massive void above the Grand Gallery, stretching nearly 100 feet long. Another, smaller space was found near the pyramid's north face. These aren't accidental gaps, their precise alignment suggests intentional design. So what were the ancient builders hiding? Theories range from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some archaeologists propose these could be undiscovered burial chambers, perhaps holding the remains of lesser-known royals or high priests. Others wonder if they served as storage for sacred texts or ceremonial objects too precious to place in known tombs. Then there are the more speculative ideas. Could these voids have functioned as part of an ancient energy system? A handful of researchers point to the pyramid's unique geometry, suggesting its structure might have harnessed natural vibrations or electromagnetic forces. While mainstream science remains skeptical, it's hard to ignore the pyramid's peculiar acoustic properties or the way its layers of limestone and granite interact with Earth's magnetic field. Even if these theories prove unfounded, they highlight a fundamental truth. We still don't fully grasp the pyramid's engineering genius. Consider the precision of its construction. The Great Pyramid's base is leveled to within just 2 centimeters, despite covering an area of over 13 acres. Its corners align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, a feat requiring astronomical knowledge that shouldn't have existed 4,500 years ago. The newly discovered voids only deepen the mystery. How did workers carve and position millions of multi-ton blocks around hidden chambers without leaving any obvious access points? Modern architects struggle to replicate such precision even with laser-guided tools. Perhaps the most tantalizing question isn't just what's inside these spaces, but why they were sealed so completely. Unlike other Egyptian tombs, which often feature corridors or shafts leading to burial chambers, these voids appear intentionally isolated. Were they meant to protect something or to keep something hidden? Until researchers devise a non-invasive way to explore them, a challenge given the pyramid's protected status, we're left with tantalizing shadows on a scan, whispers of a secret still buried under centuries of stone. Every new revelation about the Great Pyramid chips away at our assumptions. It's not just a tomb or a monument, it's a puzzle box crafted by a civilization whose understanding of engineering, astronomy, and perhaps even physics might rival our own. Those hidden chambers aren't empty, they're filled with questions, waiting for the day we're finally ready to answer them. Buried in the ruins of a Minoan palace on the island of Crete lies one of archaeology's most stubborn riddles, the Feistos disk. Discovered in 1908, this palm-sized clay tablet is unlike anything else from the ancient world. Both sides are covered in a spiral of 45 distinct symbols, pressed into the clay with individual stamps, a technique that makes it the oldest known example of movable type printing, predating Gutenberg by over 3,000 years. But here's the catch: no one knows what any of it means. The symbols themselves are a tantalizing mix of the familiar and the bizarre. There are human figures, birds, fish, and plants, alongside abstract shapes that defy interpretation. Some appear only once, while others repeat in curious patterns, as if forming words or phrases. Linguists have spent decades trying to match them to known scripts, Linear A, Egyptian hieroglyphs, even early Cypriot writing, but nothing fits. It's as if the disk's creator invented an entire language just for this one object. So what was its purpose? Theories range from the mundane to the extraordinary. Some scholars argue it's a religious hymn or a prayer meant to be read aloud during ceremonies. Others suggest it could be a board game with a spiral path guiding players through some long-forgotten rules. Then there's the more provocative idea that it's a coded message, perhaps a treaty or a royal decree, designed to be understood only by a select few. The Minoans were master traders, after all. Could this have been their version of diplomatic encryption? What makes the Feistos disk so maddening is its isolation. No other artifact like it has ever been found, not in Crete or anywhere else. If it's a language, why didn't it spread? If it's a game, where are the playing pieces? Even the palace where it was discovered offers no clues, just a single disc sitting amid broken pottery, as if dropped in haste. Modern technology has only deepened the mystery. High-resolution scans reveal microscopic details in the symbol's impressions, suggesting each stamp was used multiple times. Yet without a Rosetta Stone-like key, even artificial intelligence struggles to find meaning in the patterns. The disc refuses to surrender its secrets, standing as a silent testament to a literacy we've lost. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere beyond our current understanding. Maybe the symbols aren't meant to convey language at all, but something more abstract, a musical notation, a star chart, or even a tactile system for the blind. Until another example surfaces, the Feistos disc remains a solitary enigma, a message from the past that refuses to be translated. It's not just an artifact, it's a challenge, daring us to think differently about how ancient civilizations recorded their world. Every failed attempt to decode it whispers the same humbling reminder. Some puzzles aren't meant to be solved, only pondered. In the heart of Delhi, a towering iron column stands as a silent rebuke to modern metallurgy. The iron pillar, erected over 1,600 years ago during the reign of Emperor Chandragupta II, has endured monsoons, pollution, and centuries of tropical humidity without a single speck of rust. While steel structures today require constant maintenance to resist corrosion, this ancient monument has defied the laws of chemistry with eerie persistence. What makes this pillar so extraordinary isn't just its age, it's the sheer impossibility of its condition. Made of 98% pure wrought iron, a material notorious for oxidizing rapidly, the pillar should have crumbled to flakes centuries ago. Yet its surface bears only the faintest patina, a thin protective film that scientists call mesowite, a crystalline layer forming under very specific conditions. Modern attempts to replicate this phenomenon in laboratories have failed spectacularly. Even more baffling, the pillar wasn't forged in some controlled environment. It was hammered together by hand, using techniques lost to time. The secret might lie in the pillar's unique composition. Spectrographic analysis reveals trace amounts of phosphorus, far higher than in modern iron, which reacts with oxygen and moisture to create that self-healing protective layer. Ancient Indian smiths likely sourced their iron from particular mines rich in phosphorus, then purified it through a painstaking process of repeated heating and hammering. This wasn't accidental, it was metallurgical mastery, a deliberate recipe passed down through generations of artisans. But here's the twist. The same properties that make the pillar rust-resistant also make it brittle under stress. That raises a profound question. How did these ancient craftsmen balance purity and strength so perfectly? The answer might lie in the pillar's original purpose. Inscriptions suggest it once bore a statue of the Hindu god Vishnu, meaning it was designed for stability, not structural load. Every detail, from its tapered shape to its alloy mix, was tailored to a sacred function. Perhaps the most humbling realization is that this pillar isn't some isolated fluke. Historical records describe entire iron bridges and structures across ancient India that stood for centuries without corrosion. The knowledge wasn't lost, it was abandoned as newer technologies replaced older methods. Today, as engineers battle rust on bridges and skyscrapers, the iron pillar stands as a quiet challenge, proof that our ancestors solved problems we're still grappling with. It's not just a relic, it's a mirror reflecting how much we've forgotten in the relentless march of progress. Imagine a weapon so fearsome that just the sight of it could make seasoned warriors flee in terror. A fire that clung to ships, devoured flesh, and refused to be extinguished even by water. This was Greek fire, the Byzantine Empire's most closely guarded secret, a weapon so potent it shaped the course of medieval warfare. First unleashed in the 7th century, this incendiary substance turned the tide of battles, allowing the outnumbered Byzantine navy to repel invaders time and again. But what made it so devastating, and why, despite centuries of reverse engineering, has its exact formula vanished from history? The key to Greek fire's terror lay in its unnatural persistence. Unlike ordinary flames which water could douse, this liquid fire seemed to feed on moisture, spreading even more violently when sailors tried to smother it. Contemporary accounts describe it as a sticky, viscous substance that clung to everything it touched: wood, sails, even human skin, burning with an eerie intensity that couldn't be quenched. Some reports claim it ignited with a thunderous roar, while others mention a sinister hiss as it skittered across waves, chasing enemy ships like a living thing. The Byzantines deployed it through pressurized bronze tubes mounted on their warships, spraying jets of flame that turned the sea itself into a blazing inferno. So what was in this nightmare fuel? The recipe was such a closely held state secret that only a handful of people ever knew it, and they took the truth to their graves. Modern chemists have pieced together clues from historical texts and surviving accounts, pointing to a likely mix of crude petroleum, quicklime, and possibly sulfur or saltpeter. Some theories suggest the inclusion of pine resin or other adhesives to give it that infamous stickiness. The real genius, though, might have been in the delivery system, a primitive flamethrower that used pressurized air or pumps to project the flaming liquid with terrifying precision. Yet the mystery deepens when you consider how far ahead of its time this technology was. The Byzantines weren't just throwing fire, they'd mastered the principles of fluid dynamics and combustion chemistry centuries before these concepts were formally understood. Their engineers crafted pumps and valves capable of handling a volatile substance without catastrophic accidents, a feat that would challenge even modern materials science. And then there's the most haunting question of all. Why was the knowledge lost? Some historians blame the fall of Constantinople, while others speculate that the secret died with a single family or guild of alchemists. What's undeniable is the psychological impact Greek fire had on the medieval world. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a specter, a symbol of Byzantine ingenuity that kept enemies at bay for generations. Even today, as scientists debate its composition, no one has fully recreated its horrifying effectiveness. Maybe that's for the best. Some secrets, it seems, are meant to stay buried, not because we can't uncover them, but because they remind us of a time when fire itself could be bent to human will, with consequences too terrifying to fully control. Walk through the streets of Rome today, and you'll find yourself surrounded by structures that have weathered 2,000 years of earthquakes, wars, and the relentless march of time. The Pantheon, with its massive unsupported dome, still stands as proudly as the day it was completed, a testament to Roman engineering. Yet drive past a modern bridge or parking garage built just 50 years ago, and chances are you'll see cracks, corrosion, and decay. The difference, a seemingly magical material known as Roman concrete, a recipe so advanced that scientists are only now beginning to unravel its secrets. At first glance, it shouldn't work. Modern concrete relies on Portland cement, a mixture that hardens through a chemical reaction with water but becomes brittle over time, especially when exposed to salt or moisture. Roman concrete, by contrast, was made with volcanic ash, lime, and chunks of volcanic rock, a combination that shouldn't have lasted centuries, let alone millennia. Yet instead of crumbling, it did something extraordinary. It grew stronger. Recent studies using electron microscopes have revealed the reason. When seawater seeped into the concrete, it reacted with the ash to form rare minerals like aluminous tobamorite, creating a self-reinforcing crystalline structure. Essentially, the material healed itself, filling in micro cracks before they could spread. So why did this revolutionary formula vanish for over 1,000 years? The answer lies in the collapse of an empire. As Rome's political and economic power disintegrated, so too did the intricate supply chains that delivered volcanic ash from Pozzuoli to construction sites across the Mediterranean. The knowledge wasn't lost overnight, it faded, replaced by cheaper, quicker alternatives as builders prioritized speed over longevity. By the Middle Ages, the recipe had become little more than a legend, whispered by masons who couldn't replicate its durability. Today, scientists are racing to reverse engineer this ancient marvel. Imagine the implications: seawalls that strengthen with every wave, skyscrapers that repair their own stress fractures, or nuclear waste containment that remains intact for millennia. But here's the twist: the Romans might not have fully understood why their concrete worked. They simply knew it did, refining their methods through trial and error rather than microscopic analysis. Their greatest invention wasn't just a material, it was a philosophy, one that valued endurance over expediency, a lesson we're still struggling to relearn. The Pantheon's dome, still the world's largest unreinforced concrete structure, isn't just a relic. It's a challenge, a silent rebuke to our disposable mindset. While we patch potholes and replace crumbling infrastructure, those ancient Roman walls keep standing, quietly waiting for us to catch up. Deep in the shadows of Egypt's Sakara necropolis, a tiny wooden artifact sits quietly in the Cairo Museum, barely drawing a second glance from most visitors. But look closer, this is the Sakara bird, a delicate 2,000-year-old carving that seems to defy its time. With its sleek, aerodynamic wings and a tail fin that looks uncannily like a modern aircraft stabilizer, it doesn't resemble the usual religious figurines or symbolic animals found in ancient tombs. Instead, it looks like something far more extraordinary, a glider, discovered in 1898 during an excavation of a burial site. The bird was initially dismissed as a child's toy, or perhaps a stylized representation of a falcon, a sacred symbol of the god Horus. But when aviation experts examined its proportions centuries later, they noticed something startling. The angle of its wings and the precise curvature of its body aren't just decorative, they're mathematically optimized for lift. In wind tunnel tests, replicas of the Sakara bird demonstrated remarkable gliding capabilities, able to stay airborne for short distances with minimal adjustments. So how could an ancient civilization, one we've never associated with flight, have crafted an object with such advanced aerodynamic properties? One theory points to the Egyptians' keen observation of nature. They watched birds for centuries, studying their flight patterns for both practical and spiritual reasons. Could some artisan have taken that knowledge further, experimenting with the principles of lift and drag? Skeptics argue it's just a coincidence, a lucky convergence of artistry and physics. But then there's the curious notch on the bird's tail, perfectly positioned to hold a rudder or stabilizer if one were attached. Was this meant to be a functional prototype or merely an ornamental detail? The plot thickens when you consider the broader context. Ancient texts from Egypt and other early civilizations mention flying machines in myth and legend, from the celestial boats described in hieroglyphs to the Vimana aircraft of Indian epics. While these stories are often dismissed as pure fantasy, the Sakara bird forces us to wonder, could they have been inspired by real, if rudimentary, experiments? What's most fascinating isn't just the object itself, it's the questions it leaves unanswered. If this was a toy, why does it bear such precise engineering? If it was ceremonial, why does it lack the religious iconography found on every other artifact of its era? And if it was indeed an early flight experiment, who were the visionaries behind it, and how much further did their knowledge go? The Sakara bird doesn't just sit on a museum shelf, it soars through history, a silent challenge to our assumptions about the limits of ancient innovation. Every time a modern glider catches an updraft, it whispers the same tantalizing possibility. Maybe humanity's first flight didn't happen in Kitty Hawk. Maybe it happened over the sands of Egypt 2 millennia earlier. Long before the first modern seismograph was even a concept, a brilliant Chinese scientist named Zhang Heng unveiled a device that would change history, the world's first earthquake detector. Crafted in the year 132 CE, his bronze seismoscope was more than just an ornamental marvel. It was a functional masterpiece, capable of sensing quakes hundreds of miles away with eerie precision. Picture this, an ornate vessel adorned with 8 dragon heads, each clutching a bronze ball above the open mouths of 8 corresponding toads. When the earth trembled, even faintly, one of those balls would drop, clattering into the toad's mouth below, not just signaling an earthquake, but pointing in the direction it originated. The sheer ingenuity of this device lies in its mystery. Without any electronic sensors or modern materials, how could it detect seismic activity so accurately? Ancient texts describe an internal mechanism, likely a suspended pendulum or weighted column that reacted to ground movements, triggering the release of a single ball. But here's what baffles researchers: the seismoscope didn't just register nearby tremors. Historical records claim it once detected an earthquake over 400 miles from the capital, a feat that would challenge even today's instruments. Modern attempts to reconstruct Zhang Heng's design have yielded mixed results. Some replicas suggest the device relied on inertia, the principle that a suspended weight remains still while its casing moves during a quake. Others propose a more complex system of levers and triggers, fine-tuned to respond to specific vibrational frequencies, but no replica has matched the precision described in ancient accounts. This raises a tantalizing question. Did Zhang Heng possess knowledge of wave dynamics or harmonics that we've since overlooked? What's often forgotten is the context of its creation. In an era when earthquakes were seen as divine omens, Zhang Heng's seismoscope wasn't just scientific, it was revolutionary. By proving quakes were natural phenomena, measurable and predictable, he challenged superstition with empirical evidence. The device became a symbol of Han Dynasty innovation, a testament to what happens when curiosity meets craftsmanship. Yet for all its brilliance, the original seismoscope vanished, likely lost to war or time. Only written descriptions and artistic depictions remain, leaving us to piece together its secrets. Every time a modern seismologist adjusts a sensor array or studies aftershock patterns, they're walking in the footsteps of a second-century genius who dared to listen to the Earth's whispers. The real wonder isn't just that Zhang Heng built such a device, it's that he did it without anyone before him leaving a blueprint. Sometimes the greatest inventions aren't just ahead of their time, they're ahead of ours. Picture a Viking longship cutting through the foggy waters of the North Atlantic, its crew steering confidently despite the overcast sky blotting out the sun. How could these legendary navigators find their way without compasses or clear celestial markers? The answer might lie in a mysterious artifact mentioned in Norse sagas, the Solarstein or Sunstone. These translucent crystals weren't just decorative, they may have been precision tools, harnessing the physics of light to reveal the sun's hidden position. Recent experiments with Icelandic spar, a type of calcite crystal found in Viking Age sites, have proven something extraordinary. When held up to overcast skies, these crystals polarize sunlight, creating double images that shift in brightness depending on the sun's angle. By rotating the stone until both images match in intensity, a navigator could pinpoint the sun's location with startling accuracy even at dawn, dusk, or through thick cloud cover. It's a technique so effective that modern researchers replicated it aboard a replica Viking ship, successfully navigating within just a few degrees of the true solar position. But here's where the story gets even more intriguing. Icelandic spar isn't just some rare mineral, it's mentioned in medieval texts and has been found among Viking artifacts, including a shipwreck off the Channel Islands. This wasn't speculative technology, it was likely standard equipment for seasoned navigators. Think about the implications. While medieval Europe relied on crude magnetic compasses, Viking sailors might have been using principles of optical polarization that wouldn't be formally understood until the 19th century. What's truly remarkable is how elegantly this method aligns with Viking seafaring culture. Their entire worldview revolved around interpreting subtle natural signs, the flight patterns of birds, the swell of waves, even the color of seawater. The Sunstone wasn't some mystical talisman, it was a practical extension of their observational genius, a tool that turned the sky itself into a readable map. And it raises a provocative question. If they mastered light polarization, what other scientific principles might they have harnessed without leaving written records? The Sunstone's legacy lingers in the most unexpected places. Modern pilots, hikers, and even astronauts train with polarized filters to navigate without instruments, echoing a technique that might have guided longships to Newfoundland 1,000 years ago. It's a humbling reminder that innovation isn't always about inventing something new. Sometimes it's about seeing the familiar world through a clearer lens, literally. The next time you squint at a cloudy sky, remember, the Vikings might have known exactly where the sun was hiding, all thanks to a crystal that turned fog into a roadmap. High on the walls of the Dendera temple complex in Egypt, a series of carvings have ignited one of archaeology's most heated debates. Known as the Dendera lights, these intricate reliefs show what appear to be elongated bulbs, each cradling a snake-like filament inside, connected by cables to a box that some claim resembles a modern power source. To the untrained eye, they could easily pass for ancient schematics of electric lighting. But are we looking at proof of advanced technology, or simply misinterpreting sacred symbolism? The answer depends on who you ask and how far you're willing to stretch the boundaries of conventional history. Mainstream Egyptologists have a clear explanation. These are depictions of the Jed pillar, a symbol of stability, intertwined with the lotus flower representing creation. The snake, that's likely the god Harsomptus, a solar deity often shown emerging from a lotus in serpent form. In this view, the entire scene is a spiritual allegory, illustrating the cycle of rebirth and the divine energy of the sun. The so-called cables might just be stylized lotus stems common in temple art, but here's where things get interesting. The temple's underground crypts, where these carvings are most detailed, show no traces of soot, unlike other ancient sites lit by torches or oil lamps. How did priests navigate these pitch-black chambers to create such precise artwork? Proponents of the ancient electricity theory point to the Baghdad Battery as potential evidence that early civilizations dabbled in electrochemistry. Could the Dendera carvings be instructions for some lost lighting technology? Experiments with replicas of the depicted objects show that, when filled with certain conductive solutions, they can produce a faint glow enough to illuminate a small space. Skeptics counter that this is cherry-picking. The temple's full context includes hundreds of similar carvings with overtly religious meanings, none of which hint at technical applications. Yet the mystery lingers not just in the carvings themselves, but in the broader question they raise. Why does our modern mind so instinctively see technology in these ancient symbols? Maybe it's because the temple's creators were masters of metaphor, embedding layers of meaning that could speak to both spiritual and practical truths. Or perhaps it's a reflection of our own biases, projecting today's innovations onto the past. Either way, the Dendera carvings don't just challenge our understanding of ancient Egypt, they challenge us to confront how we interpret history itself. Every time we stare at those bulb-like shapes, we're not just seeing stone. We're seeing a mirror, reflecting our endless fascination with the idea that the past might hold secrets far brighter than we ever imagined. In a remote cave high in the mountains of China's Bayernha region, a discovery in 1938 sparked a mystery that still divides researchers today. A team of archaeologists led by Dr. Kai Pu-Te stumbled upon hundreds of strange stone discs, each roughly 12 inches in diameter, with a perfect hole in the center, like ancient vinyl records carved from granite. But what made these so-called Dropa stones truly extraordinary were the tiny, spiraling grooves that, upon closer inspection, revealed themselves to be an unknown form of hieroglyphic writing. The inscriptions, barely visible to the naked eye, appeared to tell an astonishing story, one that, if true, would rewrite human history. According to controversial translations, the markings describe an event 12,000 years ago when a spacecraft from a distant star system crashed into the mountains. The survivors, a group of beings referred to as the Dropa, found themselves stranded on Earth, unable to repair their vessel. Local tribes initially feared these small-statured, large-eyed creatures, but over time, the groups reportedly intermingled. The stones allegedly served as their final record, a message carved in desperation before the Dropa vanished from history. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss these claims outright. Many argue the discs are nothing more than ceremonial artifacts from ancient nomadic cultures, their writing merely decorative or natural weathering patterns. Some point out that the original discs have mysteriously disappeared from official records, with only grainy photographs and second-hand accounts remaining. Even the name, Dropa, itself is suspect. No known tribe or language group in the region matches that term. Skeptics suggest the entire story might be an elaborate hoax, possibly stemming from mistranslations or sensationalized reporting during a time when interest in UFOs was surging. Yet the mystery deepens when you examine the few scientific analyses conducted before the stones vanished. In 1962, Russian researcher Dr. Vyacheslav Sazev claimed to have examined several discs, reporting that the granite contained high concentrations of cobalt and other metals unusual for local stone. Even more bizarre, he described the discs as emitting faint electromagnetic resonances, as if they'd been exposed to intense energy. Then there's the matter of the holes. Machining marks suggested they'd been drilled with a precision and speed inconsistent with primitive tools. What's often overlooked is the cultural context. The Bayernha region is steeped in legends of small, yellow-faced beings who descended from the clouds, stories that predate modern UFO lore by centuries. Could these myths be distorted memories of an unusual tribe misunderstood by ancient peoples? Or is there a sliver of truth buried in the controversy, a genuine archaeological oddity that challenges our understanding of early human encounters? The Dropa stones exist in a limbo between fact and folklore, a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Whether they're evidence of extraterrestrial contact, an elaborate ancient hoax, or simply misidentified artifacts, they force us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the past refuses to fit neatly into our textbooks. Every time a new, ancient astronaut theory emerges, the ghost of these enigmatic disks resurfaces, whispering the same tantalizing question: what if we're not the first intelligent beings to walk this earth? Until those stones reappear for proper study, we're left with only echoes of a story too extraordinary to ignore, yet too unproven to believe. Buried in the dense jungles of Colombia, a collection of golden figurines has sparked a debate that blurs the line between ancient art and aerospace engineering. Known as the Quimbaya artifacts, these intricate pieces date back over 1,000 years to a pre-Columbian civilization famed for its gold work. At first glance, they appear to depict stylized birds, insects, or even mythological creatures until you place them side by side with modern aircraft designs. The resemblance is uncanny: delta wing shapes, symmetrical tail fins, and even what look like fuselage ridges. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. When researchers tested scale models of these artifacts in wind tunnels, they didn't just glide, they soared with stable, efficient flight characteristics. So how could a culture without written language or wheeled transportation conceive of objects that mimic principles of aerodynamics we've only formally understood in the last century? One school of thought argues these were purely symbolic, inspired by natural forms like seeds or marine life that coincidentally align with aerodynamic shapes. After all, nature itself is full of efficient designs. Maple seeds spin like helicopter blades, fish cut through water with streamlined bodies. Perhaps the Quimbaya artisans, through keen observation, unconsciously replicated these patterns in their work. But another perspective points to the precision of these designs. Many figurines feature raised ridges along their wings, perfectly positioned to reduce drag, a detail too consistent to be accidental. Then there's the matter of balance. Unlike actual birds or insects, which have varied body shapes, these artifacts share a uniform symmetry that mirrors the engineering of modern drones or gliders. Could they have been based on observations of something more advanced? Ancient astronaut theorists certainly think so, suggesting the figurines might represent actual flying machines witnessed by the Quimbaya people. Mainstream archaeologists counter with a compelling middle ground. The Quimbaya were master metallurgists, experimenting with lost wax casting techniques to create objects of stunning complexity. It's possible their artisans stumbled upon aerodynamic properties through trial and error, refining shapes over generations until they achieved these forms. After all, innovation doesn't always require theoretical knowledge. Sometimes it's the product of relentless experimentation. The real mystery isn't just whether these artifacts fly, it's why this particular civilization, among all others, produced such anomalous designs. No other pre-Columbian culture created gold work with these specific features. Were the Quimbaya tapping into an intuitive understanding of physics, or were they documenting something extraordinary? Until we uncover more of their lost history, these golden enigmas will keep hovering between art and impossibility, challenging us to reconsider where inspiration, and perhaps even knowledge, can truly come from. Hidden among the dusty shelves of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace lies a fragment of parchment that shouldn't exist: the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral with a passion for cartography. At first glance, it's just another antique chart, its edges worn by time. But look closer and you'll notice something impossible: the outline of Antarctica, a continent that wouldn't be officially discovered for another 300 years. And not just a rough sketch, this map depicts the northern coastline with eerie precision, matching modern satellite surveys of the landmass beneath the ice. How could a 16th century sailor have known what lay at the bottom of the world? The map's creator, Piri Reis, left clues in his own notes. He claimed to have compiled his work from older sources, including charts dating back to Alexander the Great's era and maps drawn by the infidels in the West, possibly referring to pre-Columbian European or even lost Phoenician navigators. This suggests the astonishing possibility that Antarctica's shape was known to ancient seafaring cultures, their knowledge passed down through centuries before landing in Ottoman hands. But here's the twist: Antarctica has been buried under miles of ice for at least 6,000 years. If these ancient sources existed, they'd have to originate from a time when coastal areas were ice-free, a period predating recorded human civilization. Modern skeptics argue the map might depict South America's eastern coast, distorted by the cartographic errors common in that era, yet the details defy that explanation. The map shows topographic features like mountain ranges and rivers that align with subglacial scans of Antarctica, features utterly invisible without advanced technology. Even more perplexing is the map's use of spherical trigonometry, a mathematical technique that shouldn't have been widely used until the 18th century. Reis couldn't have calculated these coordinates on his own. He must have been copying from someone who understood Earth as a globe with frightening accuracy. The most compelling evidence comes from the map's treatment of the Queen Maud Land region. Modern seismic surveys reveal underwater plateaus and fjords that would only be visible if the ice sheet melted, yet the Reis map traces these submerged coastlines perfectly. Some researchers propose that ancient explorers might have accessed even older maps, perhaps from a hypothetical seafaring culture like the legendary Atlanteans. Others suggest a more controversial idea, that advanced prehistoric civilizations existed and were wiped out by rising seas at the end of the last ice age, leaving only fragments of their knowledge behind. What's often overlooked is the map's context. Reis wasn't some fringe figure. He was a respected admiral operating in an era when Ottoman scholars were preserving and expanding upon classical knowledge. His work reflects a golden age of Islamic cartography that synthesized Greek, Arab, and Indian geographic traditions. Maybe the real mystery isn't just how Antarctica appeared on his map, but how much other forgotten knowledge might have been lost when libraries like Constantinople's were sacked or decayed. The Reis map doesn't just challenge our timeline of exploration. It forces us to reconsider the cyclical nature of human discovery. Every time modern sonar confirms another detail on that 500-year-old parchment, it whispers the same unsettling truth: we might not be the first to map the world. And if ancient sailors truly knew Antarctica's shape, what other secrets did they take to their graves? Until we find those lost source maps, this Ottoman enigma will keep us staring at the edges of history, wondering how much we've forgotten beneath the ice of time. In 1961, a trio of rockhounds searching for geodes near Olancha, California, cracked open what they thought was just another lump of hardened clay, only to find something that defied all logic. Inside the ancient stone, perfectly encased as if placed there deliberately, was a mechanical object resembling a 20th century spark plug. Dubbed the Koso artifact, this bizarre discovery has been the subject of fierce debate ever since. Geologists who examined the surrounding mineral layers estimated the nodule's age at roughly 500,000 years, a time when Homo sapiens didn't even exist, let alone internal combustion engines. So how could a piece of modern machinery end up sealed inside a prehistoric rock? The object itself only deepens the puzzle. X-rays revealed a hexagonal metallic shell surrounding a porcelain insulator, with a central rod that bore an uncanny resemblance to contemporary spark plug designs. Skeptics argue it might be a mining tool from the 19th or early 20th century, somehow fossilized through rapid mineral accretion. But here's the problem: natural processes don't encase objects in solid rock over mere decades. The type of concretion around the artifact typically forms over hundreds of millennia, locking its contents in a geological time capsule, even more baffling. The materials don't match any known spark plug manufacturer's specs. The porcelain's composition is oddly primitive, lacking the alumina used in modern variants, while the metal alloys resist easy classification. One theory suggests the artifact could be a product of UPART phenomena, out-of-place artifacts that seem to belong to eras far removed from their geological context. Similar finds, like the London Hammer or the Ayod Wedge, have sparked speculation about lost civilizations with advanced technology. Could the Koso artifact be a remnant of some forgotten culture that mastered engineering before recorded history? Proponents point to ancient texts describing flying chariots or divine fire, wondering if these were garbled accounts of real machines. Others take a more fringe view. Could it be evidence of time travelers, leaving behind accidental debris from visits to the distant past? Mainstream science remains unconvinced. Critics highlight the lack of verifiable documentation from the original discovery. The artifact's current whereabouts are unknown, and the only surviving analyses come from second-hand reports. Mineral experts also note that concretions can sometimes form unusually fast under specific chemical conditions, potentially explaining the encasement without invoking ancient astronauts or time warps. Yet even the most skeptical admit the Koso artifact resists easy dismissal. If it's a hoax, it's an inexplicably elaborate one, crafted with materials that don't neatly align with any known period. What lingers isn't just the mystery of the object itself, it's the unsettling question it forces us to confront. How much of humanity's technological timeline might we have wrong? We assume progress moves in a straight line, from stone tools to microchips, but discoveries like this suggest the path might be messier, full of false starts and forgotten leaps. Every time someone digs up an artifact that doesn't fit, it's a crack in the foundation of what we think we know. The Koso artifact might never surrender its secrets, but that's precisely what makes it so compelling. It's not just a spark plug in a rock. It's a spark for the imagination, daring us to reconsider who might have walked this earth long before us. Deep in the rainforests of Costa Rica's Diquis Delta, a series of near-perfect stone spheres lie half-buried in the mud, as if some giant's forgotten marbles had tumbled across the landscape. Known as the stone spheres of Costa Rica, these enigmatic artifacts range from the size of a bowling ball to massive orbs over 8 feet in diameter, weighing up to 16 tons. Carved from solid granite, their surfaces are so smooth and symmetrically flawless that modern engineers struggle to explain how an ancient culture achieved such precision without metal tools or advanced measuring devices. The mystery begins with their creation. The indigenous Boruca, Taraba, and other pre-Columbian peoples who crafted these spheres between 300 BC and 1500 CE left no written records. Archaeologists believe they likely shaped the granite by painstakingly pecking at the stone with other hard rocks, then polishing them with sand or leather, a process that could take years for a single sphere. But here's what defies logic. Many of these spheres are accurate to within 2 millimeters of perfect roundness, a level of precision that rivals modern machining. Some theories suggest they might have used a combination of heat and rapid cooling to fracture the stone more precisely, or perhaps wooden scaffolding and ropes to rotate the spheres during shaping. Yet no tools or workshops have ever been found nearby, leaving their methods shrouded in speculation. Then there's the question of transport. The granite used for many spheres wasn't local. It was quarried miles away in the Talamanca Mountains. How did these ancient people move multi-ton stones through dense jungle, across rivers, and up steep terrain without wheels or pack animals? Some researchers propose they rolled the spheres on logs or floated them along waterways during rainy seasons, but testing these methods with replicas has proven wildly impractical. Even more baffling is their placement. Many spheres were arranged in geometric patterns, straight lines, triangles, even astronomical alignments, suggesting they served a purpose beyond mere decoration. One compelling theory ties them to celestial observation. Certain groupings align with solstice sunrises or significant star positions, hinting they might have functioned as a massive calendar or ritual site. Others speculate they marked tribal boundaries, symbols of power, or even navigational aids for trade routes. But the most haunting possibility, we may never know their true purpose. When Spanish colonizers arrived in the 16th century, they displaced or enslaved the indigenous groups, severing the cultural continuity that might have preserved the sphere's meaning. Later, many spheres were dynamited by treasure hunters or rolled into gardens as ornaments, scattering their original contexts to the winds. Modern technology offers glimpses of hope. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed that some spheres were buried in precise formations, with hidden alignments still waiting to be decoded. Meanwhile, contemporary indigenous communities speak of the spheres as sacred objects, imbued with the spirits of ancestors, a reminder that their significance might transcend the purely practical. Every laser scan that confirms their impossible geometry, every soil analysis that uncovers lost arrangements, brings us closer to understanding these silent sentinels of stone. The stone spheres of Costa Rica don't just challenge our assumptions about ancient craftsmanship, they force us to confront how much history slips through our fingers. These granite puzzles aren't just artifacts, they're a testament to a culture that saw the world in circles and symmetry, a language of stone we're still struggling to translate. Each perfect curve whispers the same tantalizing question: what else did they know that we've yet to rediscover? Nestled in a quiet corner of the Creation Evidence Museum in Texas, an unassuming artifact sits behind glass, a hammer that shouldn't exist. Known as the London Hammer, this ordinary-looking tool was discovered in 1936 by a couple hiking near London, Texas. What made the find extraordinary wasn't the hammer itself, but where it was found solidly encased in a chunk of limestone dated to over 100 million years old. That's right, a seemingly modern tool trapped in stone from an era when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. At first glance, the hammer appears unremarkable, a wooden handle with a metal head, the kind you might find in any 20th century workshop. But scientific analysis reveals details that defy easy explanation. The handle has partially fossilized, its organic material transformed into stone through a process that typically takes millions of years. Even stranger, the metal head is composed of an unusual alloy, primarily iron with traces of chlorine and sulfur, but lacking the carbon found in modern steel. Metallurgists who have studied it describe the composition as purer than industrial methods typically produce, almost as if it was forged using techniques we've yet to rediscover. So how could a human-made object end up sealed inside prehistoric rock? Geologists offer a few possibilities. One theory suggests the hammer might have been dropped into mineral-rich water, where rapid sedimentation encased it in a concretion, a hard, compact mass that forms around objects much faster than typical fossilization. While this could explain its preservation, it doesn't fully account for the rock's estimated age or the hammer's anomalous metalwork. Another explanation proposes that the surrounding limestone isn't as ancient as initial tests suggested, perhaps forming during a more recent period when humans were already crafting tools. But even this falls short of clarifying the hammer's unique metallurgy or the fossilized state of its handle. Then there's the more controversial interpretation. What if the hammer is exactly what it appears to be? A relic from an advanced prehistoric civilization, one that mastered metallurgy and tool-making long before recorded history. Proponents of this view point to similar, out-of-place artifacts found worldwide, from ancient batteries to precision-cut stones, as evidence that human technological development isn't as linear as we assume. Could there have been a cycle of civilizations rising and falling, their achievements lost to time? Mainstream archaeologists remain skeptical, dismissing the hammer as a 19th-century miner's tool that became embedded in relatively young rock. Yet even the skeptics admit the artifact raises provocative questions about how we date objects and interpret anomalies. The London hammer doesn't just challenge our understanding of the past, it forces us to confront how little we truly know about the ebb and flow of human innovation. Every time a scientist re-examines its peculiar alloy or a geologist debates the rock's formation, they're not just studying a tool, they're grappling with the possibility that history might be far stranger and far more mysterious than we've ever dared to imagine. High in the remote mountains of Qinghai Province, China, a cluster of strange iron pipes juts from the rocky slopes near Mount Baigong, an ancient enigma that has baffled researchers for decades. These rust-colored tubes, some as wide as a foot in diameter, others as slender as a toothpick, weave through the desolate landscape like the remnants of some long-abandoned industrial project. But here's the catch. They're embedded in rock formations dating back tens of thousands of years, long before humans supposedly mastered metallurgy on this scale. So who or what constructed these eerie conduits, and what were they designed to carry? The mystery deepens when you examine the pipe's composition. Laboratory tests reveal they're made primarily of iron, but with an unusual mix of silicon dioxide and calcium oxide materials commonly found in modern industrial slag. Yet these pipes aren't just scattered debris, they're organized, with some running vertically into the mountain like subterranean vents, and others arranged in geometric patterns across the surface. Even more puzzling are the pipe's hollow centers, some perfectly cylindrical, suggesting they were designed to channel liquids or gases. Local legends speak of a pyramid nearby, though no such structure has been officially documented, adding another layer of myth to the site. Mainstream geologists propose a natural explanation. The pipes could be fossilized tree roots or mineral formations known as fulgurites, created when lightning strikes sand. Over millennia, mineral-rich water might have seeped through these hollow channels, depositing iron and other metals to create pipe-like structures. But skeptics of this theory point to the pipe's precise arrangements and uniform shapes, features rarely seen in natural formations. Then there's the matter of radioactivity. Some samples tested showed trace levels of rare earth elements, fueling speculation about ancient energy systems or even extraterrestrial intervention. Archaeologists have uncovered similar iron artifacts in the region, suggesting the area might have been home to an unknown ancient culture with advanced metallurgical knowledge. Could the Baigong pipes be remnants of an early plumbing system designed to transport water or geothermal steam? Or were they part of some larger, lost technology? The absence of nearby settlements or corroborating artifacts makes these questions even harder to answer. What lingers isn't just the mystery of their origin, it's the unsettling implication that our understanding of ancient innovation might be woefully incomplete. Every time a hiker stumbles upon another rusted fragment or a scientist analyzes their peculiar composition, the Baigong pipes whisper the same provocative question: how many other ancient impossibilities are still waiting to be unearthed? Until we find more clues, these iron sentinels will keep guarding their secrets, a tangled web of rust and riddles buried in the heart of China's most forbidding mountains. Along the banks of Romania's Mureș River, construction workers digging in 1974 made a discovery that would send shockwaves through the archaeological community. A wedge-shaped metal object buried beneath 35 feet of ancient sediment. At first glance, the Ayod artifact seemed unremarkable, covered in a thick layer of hardened clay. But when researchers cleaned and analyzed it, they were met with an impossibility. The object was made of aluminum, a metal humans didn't learn to produce until 1825. Even more baffling, the surrounding geological layer dated back at least 20,000 years to a time when Neanderthals still roamed Europe. The artifact's design only deepened the enigma. Weighing just over 5 pounds, its aerodynamic shape bore striking resemblance to modern aircraft landing gear or heavy machinery components. Microscopic analysis revealed something even stranger. The aluminum was alloyed with elements like silicon, copper, and zinc, a composition that matched advanced 20th century metallurgy rather than anything found in nature. Oxidation patterns suggested it had been exposed to both air and salt water, as if it had traveled between environments before being sealed in sediment. Mainstream science offers a few possible explanations, though none fully satisfy. Some speculate it could be a fragment from a World War II aircraft or industrial equipment, somehow sinking deep into the riverbed through unusual erosion patterns. Others propose it might be a piece of mining machinery from the 19th century, despite the sediment layer's established age. But here's the catch: Romania had no aluminum industry until well after the Second World War, making either scenario unlikely. Even if the object had been dropped into the river recently, the geological strata where it was found typically take millennia to form. Then there's the more provocative angle. Could the Ayod artifact be a relic of a lost advanced civilization? Proponents point to similar anomalous finds, like the Antikythera Mechanism or the Baghdad Battery, as evidence that ancient societies might have possessed knowledge far beyond what we've credited them for. The wedge's precise shape and alloy composition suggest intentional engineering, not a random natural formation. Local legends speak of sky metal, gifted by gods, fueling speculation about extraterrestrial origins, though most scholars dismiss this as fringe fantasy. What makes the Ayod artifact uniquely troubling is its defiance of conventional timelines. Aluminum doesn't occur naturally in pure form. Extracting it requires an industrial process involving electrolysis and temperatures over 900 degrees Celsius. If this object is genuine, its existence implies someone, somewhere, cracked the secrets of advanced metallurgy tens of thousands of years before modern science. Every time a researcher re-examines its pitted surface or runs new tests on its alloy mix, the same uncomfortable question lingers: how many other technological anomalies lie buried, waiting to rewrite history? Until we find more pieces of this puzzle, the Ayod wedge remains a silent challenge, a metal whisper from a past we thought we understood. Buried beneath the fertile soil of Japan's Jomon period, a collection of clay figurines stares back at us with hollow, otherworldly eyes. Known as dogu, these enigmatic statues date back over 3,000 years. Their exaggerated features and bizarre proportions unlike anything else from the ancient world. With bulging, goggle-like eyes, slender limbs, and torsos wrapped in what appear to be intricate harnesses or suits, they look less like ritual objects and more like visitors from another dimension. Were these merely the fanciful creations of prehistoric artists, or could they represent something far more extraordinary: ancient encounters with beings not of this earth? The mystery begins with their design. Unlike the more naturalistic art of later Japanese cultures, dogu figurines are strikingly abstract, almost surreal. Many feature heart-shaped faces with triangular noses and slit mouths. their bodies adorned with spirals and geometric patterns that some interpret as stitching or mechanical detailing. The most famous examples, like the space-suited dogu from the Quimbaya site, display what looks like reinforced plating around the shoulders and thighs, with distinct ridges mimicking seams or armor. To modern eyes, they bear an uncanny resemblance to deep-sea diving suits or astronaut gear, an aesthetic that sparked endless speculation. Archaeologists offer a more grounded explanation. The Jaman people were hunter-gatherers who lived in harmony with nature, and their art often reflected spiritual beliefs. The dogu might represent deities, ancestors, or shamanic intermediaries, their exaggerated features symbolizing altered states of consciousness during rituals. The goggles, for instance, could depict snow blindness or the dilated pupils of trance visions. Their broken limbs, many figurines were deliberately fractured, suggest they were used in sympathetic magic, perhaps to heal ailments or ensure fertility. Yet, even within this framework, questions linger. Why do some dogu have elongated skulls or torsos segmented like insect exoskeletons? And why do their suits vary so dramatically, from smooth surfaces to intricate, almost technological textures? Then there's the cultural context. The Jaman era spanned millennia, with dogu styles evolving over time. Early versions were simpler, while later ones grew increasingly elaborate, hinting at a deepening spiritual complexity. But here's what's fascinating: no two dogu are exactly alike. Each seems to reflect individual artistry rather than a standardized religious icon. This variability makes it hard to dismiss the ancient astronaut theory outright. Could these figurines be fragmented memories of encounters with advanced beings, reinterpreted through the lens of prehistoric understanding? Proponents point to global parallels: the Wandjina cave paintings of Australia or the carvings of Mesoamerican sky gods, as evidence of a shared mythological thread. Modern technology has only deepened the intrigue. X-rays of intact dogu reveal carefully crafted hollow interiors, suggesting they weren't just idols but possibly vessels for offerings or even primitive sound devices. Some researchers propose the figurines' patterns align with constellations or solstice events, though conclusive evidence remains elusive. Meanwhile, contemporary Ainu folklore speaks of the Ripun Kamai, oceanic deities who came from the stars, a tantalizing echo of the dogu's enigmatic forms. Whether sacred art or star-born visitors, the dogu refuse to be easily categorized. They stand at the crossroads of archaeology and imagination, challenging us to reconsider how ancient peoples might have interpreted the unexplainable. Every time a new figurine emerges from the earth, cracked and weathered but still hauntingly vivid, it whispers the same question across the centuries: who or what were they really trying to show us? Until we uncover more of their lost world, these clay enigmas will keep hovering between myth and memory, a silent testament to humanity's eternal fascination with the unknown. Among the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the great cities of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, lies a mystery that refuses to be buried. Scattered across the site are dozens of skeletons' bodies frozen in sudden, violent death, their bones contorted as if caught mid-movement. Nearby, layers of fused brick and glass like rock formations suggest temperatures high enough to melt stone. These eerie clues have led some researchers to propose a theory so radical it sounds like science fiction: that Mohenjo-Daro might have been the epicenter of an ancient nuclear explosion. The evidence is undeniably strange. The skeletons show no signs of weapon trauma or disease, yet they're clustered in groups, some even holding hands, as if struck down in an instant. Radiocarbon dating places their deaths around 1900 BCE, a time when this advanced urban center was at its peak. Then there are the bricks. Entire sections of the city's structures appear vitrified, a process that occurs when materials are exposed to temperatures exceeding 1000 degrees Celsius. Similar effects are seen at known nuclear test sites, where sand is transformed into glass by the intense heat of atomic blasts. But how could a nuclear detonation have occurred 4,000 years ago? Proponents of the theory point to ancient Indian texts like the Mahabharata, which describe celestial weapons of unimaginable power. Passages speak of a single projectile charged with all the energy of the universe, capable of reducing cities to ash and poisoning survivors. Skeptics dismiss these as mythological exaggerations, but the physical evidence at Mohenjo-Daro keeps the debate alive. Could these stories be distorted accounts of real technological horrors? Mainstream archaeology offers alternative explanations. The skeletons might be victims of a sudden flood or massacre, their unusual positions explained by rapid sediment deposition. The vitrified bricks could result from massive fires fueled by the city's abundant wood and oil stores. Yet neither theory fully accounts for the sheer intensity of the heat required or the absence of charred remains among the skeletons. The mystery deepens when you consider Mohenjo-Daro's advanced urban planning, sophisticated drainage systems, grid-like streets, and evidence of metallurgy, suggesting a culture capable of remarkable engineering. Did they also unlock secrets that turned against them? Modern science adds another layer of intrigue. Soil samples from the site show elevated levels of radiation, though not conclusively linked to nuclear events. Some researchers propose a natural cause, like a meteorite airburst or plasma discharge, events that can mimic nuclear explosions without human intervention. Others wonder if the answer lies in lost technology, some method of focusing energy we've yet to rediscover. What lingers isn't just the question of what happened at Mohenjo-Daro, but why this city's demise feels so unnervingly familiar. In a world now capable of its own self-destruction, these ruins stand as a haunting mirror. Whether the result of natural disaster, ancient warfare, or something far more extraordinary, they remind us that civilizations rise and fall, sometimes in the blink of an eye. Every melted brick, every skeletal hand reaching through time, whispers the same warning. The past might hold catastrophes we've only just begun to imagine. Imagine a world without batteries, without gears, without any of the mechanical precision we take for granted today, yet somehow keeping time with accuracy rivaling modern clocks. That's exactly what Ctesibius of Alexandria achieved in the 3rd century BC with his revolutionary water clock, a masterpiece of hydraulic engineering that left even his contemporaries in awe. While most ancient timekeeping devices relied on the inconsistent drip of water or the shadow of a sundial, Ctesibius' creation was different. It didn't just measure time, it mastered it, using principles of fluid dynamics so advanced they wouldn't be fully understood for another 2,000 years. At the heart of this invention was a simple yet brilliant innovation, a constant flow mechanism. Earlier water clocks suffered from a fatal flaw. As the water level dropped in the reservoir, the pressure decreased, slowing the flow and skewing the measurements. Ctesibius solved this with an overflow tank that maintained a consistent water level, ensuring the flow rate remained steady regardless of how much water remained. Think of it like the regulating valve in a modern toilet tank, keeping the system perfectly balanced. But his genius didn't stop there. The clock featured a series of gears and floats connected to an indicator, translating the water's movement into a visible display of time, complete with intricate dials and even automated chimes to mark the hours. What's truly staggering is the level of precision he achieved. Surviving accounts describe clocks that could track not just hours but minutes, with some models even accounting for the varying lengths of daylight across seasons, a feature most mechanical clocks wouldn't replicate until the Renaissance. How did an inventor in ancient Alexandria grasp concepts like laminar flow and hydrostatic equilibrium so intuitively? Part of the answer lies in Ctesibius' other work. He wasn't just a clockmaker, he was a pioneer of pneumatics, designing organs and compressed air devices that demonstrated an almost supernatural understanding of fluid behavior. His water clock wasn't an isolated marvel. It was the product of a mind relentlessly dissecting the hidden laws of nature. Yet for all its sophistication, the clock's legacy is bittersweet. While it influenced later Islamic and Byzantine timekeeping, the original designs were lost, surviving only in fragments of Greek and Roman texts. Modern engineers attempting reconstructions have stumbled upon an unsettling truth. Some aspects of Ctesibius' work are still beyond our ability to replicate exactly. The materials he used, the precise tolerances of his fittings, even the mineral content of the water itself might have played roles we're only beginning to grasp. This wasn't just a timekeeping device, it was a declaration, a reminder that brilliance isn't bound by era, and that the ancient world harbored minds capable of insights we've spent centuries relearning. Every time you glance at your phone for the time, spare a thought for that Alexandrian workshop, where water flowed with the precision of a symphony and time itself bowed to human ingenuity. Buried beneath the ruins of an ancient Assyrian palace, a small piece of rock crystal might rewrite our understanding of early astronomy. Known as the Nimrod lens, this 3,000-year-old artifact was discovered in 1850 by archaeologist Austin Henry Layard amidst the treasures of Nimrod, modern-day Iraq. At first glance, it appears unremarkable, a palm-sized oval of polished quartz with one flat side and one slightly convex. But when held at the right angle, something extraordinary happens. It bends light, magnifying objects with surprising clarity. Was this merely an ornamental curiosity, or could it be the oldest surviving optical tool in human history? The lens's craftsmanship hints at intentional design. Ground to a precise curvature, its surface shows microscopic striations from careful polishing, suggesting it wasn't just a decorative stone but a meticulously shaped instrument. Assyrian artisans were renowned for their lapidary skills, carving intricate seals and jewelry, but the Nimrod lens required something beyond artistry. It demanded an understanding of how light behaves. Tests reveal it could focus sunlight to a small point, potentially used for fire starting, or magnify text by roughly 1.5 times, enough to aid aging scribes or craftsmen working on fine details. Yet the most tantalizing possibility lies in the stars. The Assyrians were avid astronomers, meticulously recording celestial events on clay tablets. Their observations of planetary movements and eclipses were astonishingly accurate for the era. Could the lens have aided their stargazing? Imagine an ancient scholar holding it up to the night sky, bringing the craters of the moon or the moons of Jupiter into sharper view. While it lacks the power of modern telescopes, even slight magnification would have granted them an edge in tracking celestial patterns. Some researchers speculate that multiple lenses could have been combined into a primitive telescope, though no such device has ever been found. Skeptics argue the lens might have been a furniture inlay or a ritual object, its optical properties accidental. After all, natural crystals can sometimes bend light without human intervention. But here's the counterpoint: the lens was discovered alongside glass prisms and other optical materials in a royal context, hinting at a deliberate collection of light-manipulating tools. Even if its primary purpose wasn't scientific, its very existence proves the Assyrians were experimenting with principles we associate with much later inventors. What's often overlooked is the broader implication. If one culture stumbled upon magnification, how many others might have done the same? Greek and Roman texts describe burning glasses used by physicians, and Chinese chronicles mention seeing stones for examining fine script. The Nimrod lens isn't just an artifact, it's a clue, a fragment of a larger, lost narrative about humanity's relationship with light and vision. Every time a modern optician grinds a lens or an astronomer adjusts a telescope, they're walking in the footsteps of those ancient artisans who first dared to shape crystal into a window on the cosmos. Whether a tool, a talisman, or something in between, the Nimrod lens refuses to be pigeonholed. It sits at the crossroads of art and science, challenging us to reconsider how early civilizations bridged the gap between observation and understanding. In its polished surface, we don't just see a magnified image, we see the spark of curiosity that would eventually ignite the scientific revolution, a flicker of insight preserved in stone for 3 millennia. Perched high above the modern city of Cusco, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman stands as a silent monument to an engineering mystery that has baffled experts for centuries. Its massive limestone blocks, some weighing over 120 tons, fit together so seamlessly that even after 500 years of earthquakes and erosion, you can't slide a razor blade between them. The precision is staggering. No mortar was used, yet the stones interlock with curves and angles so exact they resemble a 3-dimensional jigsaw puzzle carved by giants. How did the Inca, working without iron tools or the wheel, achieve such perfection on a scale that would challenge modern stonemasons with laser-guided equipment? The answer might lie in a forgotten fusion of artistry and geology. Unlike the rigid right angles of Egyptian pyramids, Sacsayhuaman's walls undulate with organic precision, each stone uniquely shaped to complement its neighbors. Researchers have discovered tiny protrusions called nubs on some blocks, small, unexplained bumps that might have served as handles for positioning or even as part of an intricate leveling system. Some theorize the Inca used a technique called sounding, tapping stones with harder rocks to listen for subtle vibrations, allowing them to carve matching surfaces through a form of stone acoustics. Others point to plant-based solvents. Local legends speak of a mysterious liquid that softens rock, possibly derived from acidic plants like the sap of the Quelcachu flower, which could have temporarily made stone malleable for shaping. But the real enigma isn't just the how, it's the why. Why invest such painstaking effort into joints invisible to the eye? The Incas weren't just building a fortress, they were crafting a testament to their cosmic vision. The zigzagging walls mirror the toothed silhouette of the Andean mountain range behind them, while the interlocking stones symbolize the Inca belief in the harmony of opposites, male and female blocks united eternally. This wasn't mere construction, it was alchemy, turning rock into a hymn to resilience. Modern attempts to replicate the technique have humbled even the most skilled engineers. Using only tools, the Inca might have had bronze chisels, stone hammers, and sand for polishing. Teams have struggled to match the precision, let alone the speed at which Sacsayhuaman was built. Spanish chronicles claim the complex took 70 years, but recent studies suggest it might have been completed in just 20. Raising spine-tingling questions about the workforce's size and organization. Were there lost tools, forgotten techniques, or did the Inca possess a tactile genius we've yet to rediscover? Walking the fortress's serpentine corridors today, you're left with more than awe. You're faced with a whisper from the past, a reminder that mastery isn't always measured in technology, but in the patience to listen to stone and the wisdom to make it sing. The walls of Sacsayhuaman don't just defy time, they defy our assumptions, proving that precision isn't a modern invention, but an ancient art we're still learning to decode. Deep in the sands of modern-day Iraq, buried beneath layers of forgotten history, archaeologists uncovered something that defies conventional explanations: the Ubaid lizardmen. These eerie pre-Sumerian statues, dating back over 7,000 years, depict humanoid figures with elongated heads, almond-shaped eyes, and unmistakably reptilian features. Some cradle infants, others strike ritualistic poses, but all share that same unnerving blend of human and serpentine traits. Were these merely symbolic representations of gods, or could they hint at a lost chapter of human history, one that challenges everything we think we know about early civilizations? The Ubaid culture, which thrived between 5500 and 4000 BCE, predates even the earliest Sumerian city-states. Unlike their successors, the Ubaid people left no written records, making these statues their most provocative legacy. The craftsmanship is striking, each figure carved with meticulous detail, from the scaled textures on their shoulders to the subtle curve of their claw-like fingers. Some statues wear helmets or ornate headpieces, suggesting rank or divinity, while others appear in postures of worship or childbirth. The most unsettling are the hybrid figures, part human, part lizard, as if the artists were depicting a literal fusion of species. Mainstream archaeology interprets these as religious icons, possibly representing water deities. The Ubaid lived in Mesopotamia's marshlands, where serpents and lizards were both revered and feared. A reptilian god might symbolize fertility, renewal, or the untamed forces of nature. Similar motifs appear in later Sumerian myths, like the half-fish sage Ons or the serpentine god Ningishzida. But here's where the theory frays: why do so many Ubaid statues depict these beings as tangible, almost mundane figures? Unlike the exaggerated monsters of mythology, they're rendered with anatomical consistency, as if modeled from life. Alternative researchers propose a more radical idea that the Ubaid lizardmen weren't symbolic, but representational. Could they be artistic depictions of an unknown humanoid species, or even visitors from another realm? Proponents point to global parallels: the reptilian deities of Mesoamerica, the Nagas of Hindu tradition, or the dragon kings of Chinese lore as potential echoes of a shared ancient encounter. Skeptics dismiss this as fringe fantasy, yet the statue's sheer oddness resists easy dismissal. Why would a pre-literate culture invest such effort into carving these specific forms unless they held profound significance? Modern forensic techniques add another layer of intrigue. Some statues exhibit cranial deformation, elongated skulls mirroring those found in pre-Incan cultures, and even certain Neolithic European remains. Were the Ubaid people practicing head binding to emulate these beings? Or could the statues reflect a real, now extinct lineage? Geneticists have yet to uncover DNA evidence supporting such a claim, but the archaeological record is full of gaps. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't about the statues themselves, but about the culture that created them. The Ubaid period marks humanity's transition from nomadic life to settled agriculture. Yet their art suggests a world far more complex than mere survival. These lizard-like figures might encode a lost origin story, a forgotten belief system, or even a cautionary tale. Every time a new Ubaid site is excavated, we're left staring into those almond-shaped eyes, wondering what they witnessed 7 millennia ago. Until we decipher their silent message, the Ubaid lizardmen remain a riddle carved in stone, a whisper from a time before history began. Beneath the quiet farmland of Zhejiang province in China lies an underground labyrinth so vast and precise it defies logic: the Longyu Caves. Discovered in 1992 by a curious villager draining a local pond, this sprawling network of hand-carved chambers stretches across 30,000 square meters, with some ceilings reaching heights of nearly 100 feet. But what makes these caves truly astonishing isn't their size, It's the eerie uniformity of their construction. Every inch of the walls, floors, and towering columns is covered in deliberate, parallel chisel marks, a signature of craftsmanship so consistent it looks machine-made. And here's the mystery. These caves were carved over 2,000 years ago, long before the invention of mechanical tools or even basic surveying equipment. Walking through the caverns feels like stepping into the belly of some ancient stone beast. The walls slope at identical 60-degree angles, corners meet with razor-sharp precision, and pillars are spaced at mathematically perfect intervals to distribute weight engineering feats that would challenge modern architects. Even more baffling is the acoustics. Strike a wall in one chamber, and the sound resonates through the entire complex, suggesting the builders understood wave dynamics well enough to manipulate sound intentionally. Were these caves designed as a ceremonial space, or did they serve a purpose we've yet to decipher? Theories about their construction range from the pragmatic to the extraordinary. Some archaeologists propose that teams of laborers used simple iron chisels and fire heating techniques to fracture the sandstone, then painstakingly removed the debris by hand. But the scale and precision make this explanation feel incomplete. How did they maintain such uniformity across multiple chambers without a central reference point? Others point to local legends of a lost dynasty that possessed stone-melting technology, perhaps a chemical solvent derived from plants that could soften rock temporarily. A few even speculate about the involvement of advanced, now forgotten tools, citing the cave's resemblance to much later mining operations. Then there's the question of purpose. Unlike other ancient underground sites, the Longyu caves show no signs of habitation, no soot from torches, no carvings or artifacts. Their sheer size and symmetry suggest something beyond mere quarrying. Were they a hidden military base, a secret repository for imperial treasures, or perhaps a sacred space aligned with celestial events? The absence of any written records only deepens the enigma. Even the local villagers, whose families have lived above the caves for generations, have no oral traditions explaining their origin. Modern technology has only added to the puzzle. Laser scans reveal that the cave's layout mirrors the topography of the surrounding mountains, as if the builders were creating an inverted reflection of the landscape above. Some chambers align with solstice sunrises, while others channel underground streams in patterns that seem almost ritualistic. Yet despite decades of study, no one has found a single tool mark out of place, not one measurement that deviates from the master plan. What lingers isn't just the mystery of how they were built, it's the unsettling realization that an entire chapter of ancient engineering knowledge might have vanished without a trace. The Longyu caves don't just challenge our assumptions about the past, they whisper a humbling truth. Civilizations rise and fall, taking their secrets with them. Every perfectly angled wall, every echoing chamber, is a monument not just to human ingenuity, but to the fragility of memory itself. Standing in those silent halls, you can almost hear the ghosts of the builders asking, "Will your greatest works outlast their meaning too?" High on the walls of the Temple of Seti I in Abydos, Egypt, a series of hieroglyphs have ignited a firestorm of controversy carvings that, to the modern eye, appear to depict futuristic aircraft. Among the overlapping symbols, one figure stands out, a sleek, rotor-topped silhouette uncannily resembling a helicopter, complete with what looks like tail fins and a cockpit. Nearby, other etchings evoke the outlines of submarines, jets, and even what some interpret as a hovercraft. Known collectively as the Abydos helicopter, these images have fueled theories ranging from ancient astronauts to time-traveling pharaohs. But before we leap into the realm of science fiction, let's examine the stone itself. The temple, built around 1300 BCE, is a masterpiece of New Kingdom artistry, its walls covered in intricate reliefs honoring gods and pharaohs. The so-called helicopter isn't a standalone image, it's part of a palimpsest, a recarved section where later pharaohs overwrote earlier inscriptions. This common practice, known as usurping, involved chiseling away old names and titles to replace them with new ones. Over time, erosion and weathering blended the layers, creating accidental overlaps that sometimes form new shapes. To Egyptologists, the helicopter is a textbook case of pareidolia, the human tendency to see familiar patterns in random stimuli, like spotting faces in clouds. The rotor-like curves, likely a combination of Ramses II's cartouche and the original text beneath it, their hieroglyphs merging into something unintentionally modern. Yet the theory isn't without its critics. Some researchers point to the precision of the overlapping symbols, arguing the resemblance is too striking to dismiss as mere coincidence. Could the ancient Egyptians have encountered or imagined flying machines? Proponents of the ancient technology hypothesis cite the Sakara bird, a wooden model with aerodynamic properties, as potential corroboration. Others suggest the carvings might encode lost knowledge, a symbolic language meant to convey advanced concepts through metaphor. Even mainstream scholars admit the temple's builders were keen observers of nature. If they could replicate the flight of birds in art, might they have extrapolated further? The debate takes a fascinating turn when we consider the temple's broader context. Abydos was a spiritual hub, its walls designed to guide souls through the afterlife. Many of its hieroglyphs depict mythical vessels, like the solar bark that carried the sun god Ra across the sky. Could the helicopter be a misinterpreted divine craft, a celestial vehicle described in terms the artists themselves didn't fully grasp? The human brain is wired to interpret the unknown through familiar lenses, a fact that cuts both ways. Just as ancients might have envisioned gods in mechanical terms, we project our own technology onto their symbols. Modern technology has added nuance to the discussion. Digital reconstructions of the palimpsest layers show how the overlapping glyphs could morph into aircraft-like shapes, yet they also reveal intentional design choices that resist easy dismissal. The truth may lie somewhere in between, not proof of time travel, but a testament to how fluidly symbols can transcend their original meaning. Every time a visitor gazes up at those weathered carvings, they're not just seeing stone, they're seeing a mirror, reflecting humanity's endless fascination with the idea that the past and future might be closer than we think. The Abydos helicopter doesn't just challenge our eyes, it challenges our imagination, daring us to wonder where the line between accident and intention truly lies. Buried in the shell-strewn soil of a Native American midden in coastal Maine, a tiny silver coin sparked a historical earthquake. Known as the Maine penny, this artifact, roughly the size of a modern dime, bears the unmistakable stamp of 11th century Norse craftsmanship. Minted between 1065 and 1080 during the reign of King Olaf Kyrre of Norway, it was discovered in 1957 at the Goddard site, a prehistoric settlement of the Penobscot people. Here's what makes this find so explosive. This coin predates Columbus's voyage by over 400 years, and it was found over 1,000 miles south of the only confirmed Norse settlement in North America at Elance Oaks Meadows. How did a Viking-era relic end up so far from home, nestled among the arrowheads and pottery shards of a Native American trading hub? Theories about its journey are as varied as they are contentious. One school of thought insists the coin arrived through indigenous trade networks. The Penobscot were part of an extensive exchange system stretching from the Gulf of Mexico to the Arctic, moving goods like copper, furs, and walrus ivory across vast distances. A Norse trader might have brought the coin to Labrador or Newfoundland, where it then passed from hand to hand through countless exchanges before reaching Maine. Supporting this idea are Norse sagas that mention skraelings, their term for indigenous peoples trading pelts for scraps of red cloth and milk, mundane exchanges that could have included small items like coins. But skeptics raise valid objections. Why, out of thousands of excavated Native American sites, has only one ever yielded a Norse artifact? If trade was routine, where are the other coins, tools, or weapons? This anomaly has fueled alternative explanations. Some speculate the coin could have been a lone souvenir, carried by a native traveler who encountered Norse explorers and kept it as a curiosity. Others propose it might have arrived much later, dropped by a European fisherman or collector after colonial contact, though the coin's context in an undisturbed prehistoric layer makes this unlikely. Then there's the tantalizing possibility the Norse themselves traveled farther south than we've ever proven. The Greenlander's saga mentions Leif Erikson establishing a settlement called Vinland, somewhere along the North Atlantic coast. Could Norse ships have ventured as far as Maine, leaving behind this single, stray coin as evidence? Archaeologists have scoured the northeastern seaboard for decades, searching for another Viking longhouse or boat repair site that might confirm such voyages, but so far, the Maine penny remains a solitary clue. What's often overlooked is the coin's condition when found. Unlike coins lost in circulation, worn smooth by countless hands, this one was nearly pristine, suggesting it didn't pass through many owners before being buried. This detail hints at a more direct connection between Norse and native peoples, perhaps even a face-to-face encounter. Imagine the scene: a Norse trader, far from home, pressing the coin into the hand of a Penobscot elder as part of some long-forgotten negotiation. Or perhaps a native child finding it glinting in the sand, pocketing it as a trinket without knowing its distant origin. The Maine penny doesn't just challenge our timeline of transatlantic contact, it forces us to reconsider the scale and complexity of ancient interactions. For decades, history textbooks depicted the pre-Columbian Americas as isolated, waiting to be discovered. But this tiny silver disc whispers a different story, one of fleeting meetings, accidental exchanges, and threads of connection that stretch across oceans and centuries. It's not proof of a Norse settlement in Maine, but it is proof of something equally profound: that the world has always been more interconnected than we assume. Every time someone holds this coin, they're touching a mystery that still tugs at the edges of the map, daring us to redraw the boundaries of the past. Deep in the soil of Toluca Valley, Mexico, a small terracotta head turned the archaeological world upside down. Unearthed in 1933 at the Tekaxik-Calixtlahuaca site, this unassuming artifact bears the unmistakable stylistic hallmarks of ancient Rome: the curly hair, the beard carved in meticulous detail, even the distinctive facial structure reminiscent of 2nd or 3rd century Roman portraiture. But here's what makes it impossible. The head was found buried beneath undisturbed layers of pre-Columbian construction, dating back to between 1476 and 1510 centuries after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. How could a Roman artifact end up halfway across the world, centuries before Columbus set sail? The implications are staggering. If authentic, the Tekaxik-Calixtlahuaca head suggests transoceanic contact between Europe and the Americas long before historians believed possible. One theory points to the Roman Empire's vast trade networks which stretched from Britain to India. Could a Roman ship, blown off course or deliberately exploring, have crossed the Atlantic? Ancient accounts like Plutarch's mention of the Great Continent beyond the Atlantic lend tantalizing, if vague, support. Another possibility involves the Vikings, who reached North America around the year 1000. Might they have carried Roman artifacts westward, passing them through indigenous trade routes that eventually reached central Mexico. Skeptics aren't convinced. They argue the head could be a colonial-era hoax planted to deceive researchers. Yet the excavation records show it was found in a sealed context beneath a pyramid floor untouched since pre-Hispanic times. Others suggest it might be a post-colonial import, perhaps brought by Spanish missionaries who collected classical artifacts, but radiocarbon dating of associated organic material places it firmly in the pre-contact era. The head's composition adds another layer of intrigue. Analysis reveals clay consistent with local materials, yet the craftsmanship is undeniably foreign. Was it made by a Roman artist in Mexico, or a native artisan replicating a strange object brought from afar? What's often overlooked is the broader cultural context. Mesoamerican civilizations like the Aztecs were masterful traders with networks spanning thousands of miles. The idea that they might have encountered distant travelers isn't far-fetched. Their own legends speak of pale, bearded visitors arriving from the east. Meanwhile, Roman records describe expeditions disappearing into the unknown, like the lost fleet of Augustus' admiral, who allegedly sailed beyond the Pillars of Hercules and never returned. Could one such voyage have reached the Americas, leaving behind this solitary, haunting relic? The Tekaxitlahuaca head doesn't just sit in a museum case, it stares back at us, challenging the neat timelines of history. Every time a researcher examines its weathered features, they're forced to confront the same unsettling question. How many other anomalies lie buried, waiting to rewrite the story of human connection? Until we find more pieces of this puzzle, the head remains a silent witness to a past far more interconnected than we ever imagined. In the dusty corners of a private Peruvian museum, a collection of weathered river rocks holds images that seem ripped straight from a science fiction novel, detailed carvings of humans interacting with dinosaurs, performing complex surgeries, and even observing celestial events with telescope-like devices. These are the infamous Ika stones, a trove of over 15,000 engraved andesite rocks, allegedly discovered near the town of Ika in the 1960s. To the untrained eye, they appear to depict impossible scenes: triceratops with saddle-like harnesses, stegosaurs locked in combat with human figures, and physicians using tools to perform what looks like organ transplants. If genuine, these stones would shatter our understanding of ancient civilizations, suggesting a prehistoric culture somehow coexisted with dinosaurs or possessed knowledge lost to time. But here's where the mystery twists. Are they legitimate artifacts or an elaborate hoax designed to exploit our fascination with the unknown? The controversy begins with their discovery. Local farmer Basilio Ashuya claimed he unearthed the stones near ancient burial sites, though he later admitted to creating some himself to sell to tourists. Yet even his confession leaves gaps. Some stones were found embedded in undisturbed layers of sediment, their surfaces weathered in ways that suggest centuries of exposure. Geologists who have examined them note the carving's patina. A natural oxidation layer appears consistent with great age, unlike fresh tool marks. Then there's the content itself. Many stones depict dinosaurs with startling anatomical accuracy, including features like the correct number of vertebrae in sauropod tails, or the bony plates of ankylosaurs details, only confirmed by modern paleontology decades after the stones surfaced. How could a 20th century farmer with no scientific training replicate these specifics so flawlessly? Proponents of the stone's authenticity point to broader context. The nearby Nazca culture, famous for their enigmatic desert lines, left behind other examples of intricate stonework and medical knowledge. Ancient Peruvian skulls show evidence of trepanation, a primitive form of brain surgery, hinting that advanced medical practices might have existed. Could the Ika stones be a visual record of this lost expertise? Some researchers highlight the recurring motif of star maps and what appear to be telescopes, suggesting the carvers had astronomical knowledge rivaling Renaissance Europe. Even more tantalizing are the stones showing humans interacting with extinct megafauna, reminiscent of global flood myths that describe a time when humans and giant beasts coexisted. Skeptics, however, wield powerful counterarguments. The sudden flood of stones in the 1960s coincides with a boom in pseudoscientific interest in ancient astronauts and lost civilizations, making them ripe for forgery. Modern tools like rotary engravers could mimic aged carvings, and Ushuaia's admission casts doubt on the entire collection. Then there's the glaring absence of corroborating evidence. No dinosaur fossils found alongside human remains in the region. No tools or other artifacts linking the Nazca to such advanced practices. The stone's stylistic consistency also raises eyebrows. If they accumulated over centuries, why do the carvings share nearly identical techniques and themes? Perhaps the most compelling angle isn't whether the stones are real or fake. It's why they captivate us so deeply. They tap into a universal longing to believe that the past holds forgotten marvels, that history's timeline might be far more complex than we've dared to imagine. Every time a new stone surfaces, it forces us to confront the fragility of our knowledge. Whether ancient artifact or modern forgery, the Ika stones serve as a mirror, reflecting our endless fascination with the boundaries of human possibility. They don't just challenge archaeology, they challenge us to wonder how much we've yet to uncover about the mysteries etched in stone. Many of history's most astonishing inventions didn't emerge in isolation. They blossomed during golden ages of human thought, where curiosity wasn't just encouraged but celebrated. Take the Hellenistic period, a 300-year span following Alexander the Great's conquests, where cross-cultural exchange turned cities like Alexandria into intellectual powerhouses. Here, scholars from Egypt, Greece, Persia, and beyond gathered in the legendary library of Alexandria, dissecting ideas with the same fervor as they dissected cadavers in the first anatomical theaters. It was a time when Eratosthenes calculated the Earth's circumference with sticks and shadows, while Archimedes toyed with levers and pulleys, declaring he could move the world if given a place to stand. This wasn't just progress, it was a collective explosion of imagination, fueled by a society that placed equal value on poetry and pie, on drama and geometry. Half a world away, the Gupta Empire in ancient India fostered a similar renaissance, under rulers who patronized scholars as generously as they did artists. Mathematicians like Aryabhatta pioneered the concept of zero and deduced the Earth's rotation centuries before Copernicus. Surgeons performed cataract operations with needles so fine they'd challenge modern precision tools, while metallurgists crafted the rust-resistant iron pillar of Delhi, a marvel still standing after 16 centuries. What linked these disparate cultures? A shared ecosystem of innovation, royal courts that funded research without demanding immediate utility, trade routes that carried not just spices but ideas, and a cultural reverence for knowledge that transcended borders. But brilliance didn't always require empires. Consider the anonymous artisans of Mesopotamia, who invented the wheel not in a grand institute but likely through generations of trial and error, observing logs rolling downhill or clay spinning on a potter's table. Or the Polynesian navigators who charted the Pacific's vastness using only the stars, winds, and patterns of bird flight, their breakthroughs born from necessity's crucible. The common thread, environments that rewarded curiosity, whether through patronage, survival, or sheer cultural obsession. Yet these golden ages also hold a cautionary tale. The Antikythera Mechanism's sophistication vanished for millennia after Rome's collapse, just as the Gupta Empire's surgical texts gathered dust during India's fragmented medieval period. Innovation, it seems, thrives not just on genius but on stability, on societies that protect their thinkers long enough for ideas to take root. When we marvel at these ancient wonders today, we're not just seeing artifacts, we're glimpsing what humanity can achieve when the conditions are right. The real question isn't how they built these marvels, but whether we've learned their most vital lesson. Progress isn't inevitable, it's fragile, and it flourishes only where we choose to nurture it. What if the solutions to our most pressing modern challenges aren't waiting to be invented but rediscovered? Those ancient self-healing Roman concrete mixtures. Today's engineers are racing to reverse engineer them, hoping to create infrastructure that repairs its own cracks without human intervention. The Damascus Steel's legendary nanostructure. Metallurgists now bombard modern alloys with electron microscopes, trying to replicate that perfect balance of flexibility and strength. Even Greek fire's mysterious composition has inspired research into non-water-based extinguishers for fighting industrial blazes. These aren't just museum pieces, they're blueprints. Consider energy. The Baghdad Battery, dismissed for decades as a ceremonial oddity, has sparked serious experimentation with ancient electrochemical concepts. Researchers in alternative energy circles now explore whether similar vinegar and metal reactions could inspire low-cost power solutions for remote communities. Meanwhile, the Antikythera Mechanism's precision gear systems have influenced modern micromechanical designs, proving that analog technology can achieve digital-level accuracy without a single silicon chip. But the real revolution might be in how we approach innovation itself. For centuries, we've assumed technological progress moves in a straight line, primitive to advanced. These artifacts shatter that illusion. The Inca's mortarless masonry at Sacsayhuaman puts our concrete-dependent architecture to shame. The Viking sunstones demonstrate navigation precision, rivaling GPS using nothing but polarized light. What if advancement isn't about building atop the past, but recognizing that brilliance can emerge, vanish, and re-emerge in cycles? Perhaps most importantly, these discoveries teach us humility. When contemporary scientists struggle to match the iron pillar of Delhi's corrosion resistance despite lasers and nanotechnology, it's a wake-up call. Our ancestors didn't have supercomputers, but they had something we've often neglected: time. Generations of artisans refining techniques, observing failures, and passing down hard-won knowledge through hands-on practice. In an era obsessed with rapid disruption, maybe we've undervalued the power of slow, cumulative mastery. The next medical breakthrough might lie in those ancient Ayurvedic surgical texts. The secret to space-age materials could be hidden in the forge marks of a Damascus blade. As climate change forces us to rethink modern infrastructure, the answers might not be in some futuristic lab, but in the Pantheon's rainproof dome, standing strong after 2 millennia. These artifacts aren't just relics, they're invitations to look backward as eagerly as we look forward, to question what advanced really means, and to remember that sometimes the most revolutionary ideas aren't new at all. They're just waiting for us to recognize their value again. From forgotten batteries to celestial computers, these 33 inventions shatter the illusion that innovation is a straight line from primitive to advanced. They paint a far more fascinating picture, one where brilliance flickers across centuries, where entire schools of knowledge rise and vanish like tides, leaving behind only fragments to spark our curiosity. The Baghdad Battery whispers of electrochemical experiments conducted 2,000 years before Volta. The Antikythera Mechanism's interlocking gears mock our assumptions about ancient technological limits. Even something as humble as Roman concrete, quietly healing its own cracks while our modern infrastructure crumbles, forces us to confront a humbling truth: progress isn't inevitable, and genius isn't bound by era. What makes these artifacts so compelling isn't just their sophistication, it's the questions they leave dangling. Were these inventions flashes of individual brilliance or proof of wider knowledge systems lost to time? The precision of Damascus steel suggests generations of metallurgists refining their craft, while the Sakara bird's aerodynamics hint at observations we've yet to fully decipher. Some, like the Voynich Manuscript, taunt us with entire languages of knowledge we can't translate. Others, like the Nazca lines, stretch across landscapes as if shouting their purpose to the skies, if only we knew how to listen. Perhaps the greatest lesson lies not in the objects themselves, but in what they reveal about human potential. These weren't miracles or alien gifts. They were the products of observation, experimentation, and relentless curiosity. The same minds that painted cave walls also calculated planetary movements. The hands that shaped pottery devised surgical tools precise enough for cataract removal. That duality of artistry and engineering, spirituality and science challenges the false divides we impose on history. So where do we go from here? Museums vault these artifacts behind glass, but their real power lies in the conversations they ignite. Every time a researcher applies modern tools to the iron pillars, rust-defying alloy, or 3D prints a replica of the Antikythera mechanism, we're not just studying the past, we're collaborating with it. These inventions remind us that curiosity transcends time, that the drive to understand and create echoes across millennia. As you reflect on these mysteries, consider this: the next great leap forward might not come from a lab, but from a library. Somewhere in a crumbling manuscript or an overlooked artifact could lie the key to problems we've yet to solve. The past isn't a closed book, it's a mirror reflecting our own capacity for wonder. Which of these ancient marvels sparks your imagination? Drop a comment below. We're all detectives in this grand, unfolding mystery. And if you've enjoyed this journey through time, hit subscribe. Who knows what other secrets are waiting to be unearthed? After all, history's greatest lesson might be this: the more we discover, the more we realize how